Elisa Lam, The Mystery at the Cecil Hotel. In January 2013, 21-year-old Elisa Lam vanished in Los Angeles. Weeks later, her body was discovered in the rooftop water tank of the Cecil Hotel. This film reconstructs her final days, using facts from police files, autopsy reports, and media coverage. Some moments are dramatized for storytelling clarity, but the heart of this documentary remains true: to honor the memory of Elisa and to reflect on the questions her story leaves behind. January 29, 2013, Los Angeles, a city of glittering lights, but also of shadows. On the 14th floor of the Cecil Hotel, a grainy surveillance camera records a young woman stepping into an elevator. At first, it seems ordinary. She's wearing a red cardigan, a black skirt, her hair hanging loosely. She leans forward, presses several buttons in a row, and waits. But something is wrong. The doors don't close. Seconds pass. She peers into the hallway, leaning cautiously, as if checking for someone. Suddenly, she darts back in, presses more buttons, almost every floor, and hides against the wall. Her movements are quick, almost frantic. The doors remain frozen, open. Then, something stranger. Elisa steps out, her hands moving in peculiar patterns, her fingers spread, wrists twisting. It looks like she's communicating with someone, or struggling against something invisible. She steps back into the elevator, steps out again, then vanishes from the frame. The elevator doors, silent until now, finally close. When the Los Angeles Police Department released this footage on February 14th, 2 weeks after Elisa Lam disappeared, the world stopped to watch. News anchors described it as eerie and disturbing. The video went viral, spreading across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. In Vancouver, her parents watched in disbelief. In Los Angeles, investigators hoped the public might recognize her. Instead, millions of strangers became obsessed. Online forums filled with comments. "She's hiding from someone. Look at her hands. This is possession. Why won't the doors close? Is someone outside?" Some slowed the footage down, frame by frame. Others posted theories connecting it to urban legends. The video became not just evidence, it became a mystery of its own. And at the center of it all was Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old student whose life was about to become the subject of one of the most haunting true crime stories of the decade. Elisa Lam was born in 1991 in Vancouver, Canada, the eldest daughter of David and Elisa Lam, immigrants from Hong Kong. They had worked tirelessly to build a modest life, running a small restaurant to support their 2 daughters. From a young age, Elisa was bright and curious. Teachers described her as thoughtful, a little shy but full of imagination. Friends remembered her quirky sense of humor. She loved to make people laugh, often with self-deprecating jokes. She was also deeply empathetic, the kind of person who listened more than she spoke. But alongside her warmth, Elisa carried struggles that few could see. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression in her teenage years. Unlike many, she chose not to hide it. On her personal blog, she wrote openly about her mental health journey, her medication, the good days, the bad days. In one entry, she wrote, "You're always balancing on that thin line. One misstep, and it feels like everything can collapse. But I want to keep going. I want to see the world." Her blog posts revealed a young woman who was self-aware, intelligent, and determined to live fully despite her illness. She posted about books she loved, music she listened to, and her dreams of traveling beyond Vancouver. She often shared photos, bookstores, cafes, little details that caught her eye. By 2013, Elisa was a student at the University of British Columbia, but she was restless. She longed for independence, to explore, to step outside the routine of school and work. So she planned a trip down the west coast of the United States, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco. She mapped out hostels, bookstores, art galleries. It wasn't just a vacation, it was a journey of self-discovery. Her parents, cautious and protective, worried about her traveling alone. Elisa promised to call them every day, no matter where she was, and she did. She kept a record of her trip on her blog and social media. On January 27, 2013, she posted about visiting the Last Bookstore, a famous spot in downtown Los Angeles. Staff there later remembered her as lively, friendly, excited to buy books as gifts for her family. But behind her cheerful posts, Elisa also hinted at struggles. She wrote about loneliness, about feeling the weight of expectations, about the fear that her mental health might betray her at the worst moment. For Elisa, this trip was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to see the world and prove she could handle it. What she couldn't have known was that in Los Angeles, at a place called the Cecil Hotel, her story would take a tragic turn that the world would never forget. When Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles, she checked into the Cecil Hotel, a building with one of the most notorious reputations in the city. The Cecil opened its doors in 1924 during the roaring prosperity of the 1920s. It was meant to be glamorous, a grand lobby with marble floors, ornate stained glass windows, and a rooftop ballroom. For a few years, it was exactly that, a place for traveling businessmen and tourists. But then came the Great Depression. Downtown Los Angeles changed. Businesses collapsed, poverty grew, and the Cecil found itself surrounded by despair. The once luxurious hotel became a cheap alternative for people with nowhere else to go. By the 1930s, the building had already gained a dark reputation. Reports of suicides filled newspapers. In 1931, a guest named W.K. Norton was found dead in his room after ingesting poison capsules. In 1940, Dorothy Seiger jumped from a window. In 1962, Pauline Otten leapt from the 9th floor in an argument with her husband. She landed on a pedestrian below. Both died instantly. Over time, there were so many such deaths that the Cecil earned a grim nickname, the Suicide Hotel. But suicides were not its only legacy. In the 1980s, the Cecil became infamous for housing one of California's most feared killers, Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker. Residents later recalled seeing him return to the hotel in bloody clothes, disposing of them before walking casually through the lobby. In the 1990s, another killer, Jack Unterweger from Austria, stayed at the Cecil while targeting sex workers in Los Angeles. To some, it seemed the building itself attracted darkness. The hotel's location only amplified its reputation. Just a few blocks away lay Skid Row, one of the largest homeless communities in America. Drugs, crime, and desperation filled the streets. For years, police reported overdoses, assaults, and robberies in and around the Cecil. By the 2000s, the Cecil was operating as a hybrid, part budget hotel for tourists, part long-term residence for low-income tenants. Backpackers on tight budgets could book a room for cheap, often unaware of the hotel's grim past. Guests often described unsettling experiences: dimly lit hallways, malfunctioning elevators, loud noises at night. Online reviews carried warnings: "Don't stay here if you value your safety." Creepiest place I've ever been. Something about this building just feels wrong. For some, the Cecil was just another old hotel in a rough neighborhood. But for others, it was a place steeped in tragedy, a magnet for misfortune. When Elisa Lam checked in, she probably didn't know all this history. To her, it was simply affordable lodging on her journey. But in truth, she was stepping into one of the most haunted addresses in Los Angeles. Not haunted by ghosts, perhaps, but by decades of human tragedy. Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles on January 26, 2013. She checked into the Cecil Hotel, first sharing a room with other travelers on the 5th floor. But almost immediately, her stay became complicated. Her roommates reported what they described as odd behavior. The details were never fully revealed, but it was unsettling enough that hotel management decided to move Elisa into a private room. For some, this suggested she was struggling. For others, it was simply an unfortunate misunderstanding. Despite this, Elisa seemed eager to explore the city. On January 27th, she posted about visiting the Last Bookstore, a well-known local spot. Staff there remembered her as cheerful, talkative, buying books as gifts for her family. She even took photos of the whimsical displays of books spiraling into tunnels, photos that later became haunting reminders of her final days. For her parents in Vancouver, everything still seemed fine. Elisa called them every single day, just as she had promised before leaving. But then came January 31st. That evening, Elisa failed to call home. Her parents, David and Yina, immediately sensed something was wrong. Elisa was not careless. She was responsible, cautious, and aware of her mental health. Missing a call was completely out of character. By February 1st, when she still hadn't called, her parents contacted the Los Angeles Police Department to report her missing. The police search detectives began by questioning hotel staff. The manager confirmed Elisa had been moved to a private room, but had seemed otherwise fine. Housekeepers recalled seeing her, but nothing unusual. Police searched the Cecil with dogs, going room to room. The scent dogs followed her trail up to a certain point, but then lost it inside the hotel. It was as if Elisa had vanished into thin air. Flyers with her photograph, Elisa smiling, her long dark hair framing her face, were posted across downtown Los Angeles. Police held a press conference, urging anyone with information to come forward. But downtown LA, especially near Skid Row, was a chaotic place. Thousands of people passed through daily. Leads were scarce. Family arrives. Elisa's parents quickly flew to Los Angeles. They stood before cameras pleading for help. "Please, our daughter always checks in with us. This is not like her. If anyone has seen her, please tell the police." Their voices trembled with desperation. Reporters captured the moment, and the story spread across Canadian and American news outlets. Headlines read, "Canadian tourist missing in Los Angeles. Family desperate for clues in downtown hotel mystery." By February 14th, 2 weeks had passed with no progress. Investigators decided to release a key piece of evidence, the surveillance video from one of the hotel's elevators. They hoped someone might recognize Elisa, or that the footage would trigger a memory in a witness. Instead, it triggered something else entirely, a global obsession. The strange behavior on that video turned a missing person case into a worldwide mystery. News stations aired the clip on loop. YouTube channels uploaded slowed-down versions, speculating endlessly. Reddit threads exploded with theories. And yet, Elisa was still missing. By mid-February, nearly 3 weeks had passed since Elisa Lam was last seen. Police had scoured the Cecil Hotel multiple times with dogs, searched nearby neighborhoods, and checked surveillance footage. Still, no trace of her. But inside the hotel, guests had begun to notice something was off. They lined up at the front desk with complaints. The shower barely runs. It's just a trickle. The water looks dark, almost black. There's a strange taste. I can't even brush my teeth. Housekeeping staff noticed it too. They reported that some of the sinks were slow to drain, and the color of the water seemed unusual. At first, management assumed it was an issue with the old pipes in the 90-year-old building. On the morning of February 19, 2013, maintenance worker Santiago Lopez was sent to the roof to inspect the 4 massive water tanks that supplied the entire building. Lopez later described the routine climb, unlocking a door, taking the narrow staircase, and then hauling himself up a ladder to the platform where the tank stood. Each tank was about 10 feet tall and could hold thousands of gallons of water. As he approached one of the cisterns, he noticed the heavy metal lid was not properly sealed. Curious, he pushed it open and looked inside. What he saw would haunt him forever. Floating face up in the dark water was the body of a young woman. She was naked, her clothes drifting beside her like shadows. Her long hair fanned out across the surface. It was Elisa Lam. Lopez immediately recoiled in shock and rushed to alert his supervisors. Within minutes, the rooftop was crawling with police officers, firefighters, and investigators. Helicopters circled above as news crews rushed to the scene. The headlines came quickly. Missing Canadian tourist found in hotel water tank. Body discovered in rooftop cistern at infamous Cecil Hotel. The discovery of Elisa Lam's body shocked everyone, but the questions had only just begun. Tomorrow we'll dive deeper into the investigation, the unanswered mysteries, and the theories that continue to haunt the case. This is not the end, only the beginning. Stay tuned for part 2. And in True Echoes, we are reminded that silence, questions, and grief never truly disappear. They echo. What do you think really happened to Elisa Lam in those final hours? Every secret waits to be revealed. Every silence that carries an echo, every story is waiting to be told. This was her secret. What about yours? What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comments. Every voice matters. Subscribe and step into the echoes of truth.